Welcome back, everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the knives in my collection that are essentially the same, but not. Meaning the sizing is really what differentiates them. I've left out Spydercos because you can make a case that the Para 3, the PM2, the military all have very similarities where it could fit in this video. But this is really just a focus on the titanium slash non-Spydercos because these aren't titanium. We'll jump right in. Let's talk about CRK or Chris Reeve knives. This small and cozy was the very first Chris Reeve knife I got. And I purchased it off the secondary market off Blade Forums. And I got this for $330. It's more of what they would consider the plain Jane titanium. This is the sandblasted. When I received it, the thumb studs had the anodization worn off, so I prefer this way. I actually am not. I prefer the non-anodized thumb studs over the blue ones that typically come with a plain Jane version, unless it's specifically called out stating that it's not and has silver thumb studs or gold thumb studs if you want to go with those. And the big brother is the large Inkosi. So I guess I didn't really call it out. This is the small Inkosi. This is the large one. This is the Wilson Combat exclusive. It has been discontinued as far as I know. Got this one for $555. Well, $550 plus shipping. So this was a while back. I got this back in 2021. Got the small Inkosi in 2016. If you ever wondered what the sizing difference is, it's quite a bit of difference. I'm a sucker for larger knives, so I tend to gravitate the larger versions of knives. And for the most part, actually, I would say this Chris Reeve, and when I get to Koenig, they are the ones that follow that philosophy. I am a huge fan of Chris Reeve knives, and I highly advocate the quality, customer service, the warranty aspects. And they tend to have they keep their value really well, at least from my experience of monitoring the secondary market. They've got that hydraulic opening and closing, very smooth. So for me, the small and cozy, I've never had any of the other small versions like the Sabenza 21 or 31. But for me, the small and cozy, it's lacking a bit of security, so to speak. So as you can see, for me, I have medium-sized hands and just barely is my pinky kind of able to wrap and grip the bottom of the handle. The larger version, easy peasy. Four finger grip, very secure. I tend to use the small and cozy as a backup knife. I still love it, and I think there's a lot of sentimental value in the sense that this was the very first Chris Reeve knife I've ever gotten. Yeah. Small and cozy, $330 off the secondary market back in 2016. And the large and cozy Wilson Combat exclusive, picked this up in 2021. Next up, we have Curtis knives. So Dave Curtis is a custom knife maker, and I first caught wind of Curtis knives from Jim Skelton. I used to watch a lot of his videos, and when he first talked about and previewed the F3, I was sold. Well, I recall bits of his video, basically him comparing it to the Hinderer, and from a flipping action measurement comparison, it was much better than Hinderer. And I would agree. Um, while I love my Hinderers, XM18s, this has a very authoritative, snappy, and just fierce flipping action on this. This is the medium, F3 medium, and this one is the F3 large. They also have a compact size of the F3. I didn't never got one of those. So I am comparing the medium to the large. So the large, you get obviously a 4-finger grip, at least for my hand size. And for the medium, you do get a 4-finger grip. It definitely affords more real estate than the small Inkosi. And when I was talking about where I typically prefer the large over the smaller version of a knife model, it doesn't apply to Curtis, Oz, or Strider. Now, I mean, I'll get into kind of why. I actually prefer the medium over the large. It has a better balance, um, the, at least how it feels in hand. I picked this one up directly from Curtis Knives from his website. And let me see. So this has the medium. This is the medium with a Warncliffe blade shape. It's in CTS-XHP. I got this in 2016 for $500. He had a sale going on at that time, and so they were typically around $625, but he had a sale, so that was a nice deal. The large I picked slightly more recently, back in 2022, and this was $695. I got this from an authorized online retailer. Can't quite remember who. And for the life of me, I can't describe the pattern on these, but it's kind of like a basket weave, I guess. And really like it's interesting because it's a bronze anodized, right? But it has kind of a distressed look the way this finished. And to be honest, I feel like he could have been done a little bit better because from a distressed, when I think about a distressed look, the discoloration would be more random. This feels very heavy right here in the middle. Like it polished it a little too much, so it's a little shinier. And I know I'm being nitpicky at that point, but that's kind of one thing that I would, when I take a look at this knife, I'm like, I feel like it could have been done a little better here because you can see it's very shiny right in this area, and then it's all dark and kind of matte on this side. This has the spanto blade shape, and this one is in MagnaCut. MagnaCut is still the craze. May not be for much longer if Crucible Industries, you know, I haven't read too much into it, but I've heard they're going through some, I want to say, financial troubles. Don't quote me on that. I'm just going off recollection of brief reading online. But MagnaCut might be a different name in the future if Crucible stops producing the steel. So, and what I liked about, so this is kind of the newer model of the F3 because there was, they made the large version, which was, the older batch. And I liked it more because, for one, well, this has a really nice stonewash on it, right? Um, I like the way Curtis did his insignia back then, where if you see now, it's kind of, it spells out his name more. Well, this one does too, but it's different. He also put you should be able to middle finger flick it. I can't quite do it. Thumb roll, D10's a little strong. A little cutout, semi cutout. I like the way his pivot looks. It's really cool. He does offer a pivot tool for these. However, I've just used an extra large flathead screwdriver to loosen these up to take it apart if I need to. It's got great retention on the pocket clip. And his original designs didn't mill out the inside. So these are just one fat slab of titanium on both sides. The newer ones have milled out titanium, and it because of that, it feels very blade heavy, right? Like if I'm doing this, it just wants to fall forward. Interesting enough, when I'm doing this, much better balance. It's heavier, right? Because it doesn't have the milling, but I like it more. It feels more solid. It's just my personal opinion. But it has a different acoustics with the opening. You can hear versus, yeah, I like this one more. I used to have a large version of this. It was plain Jane, raw titanium, also Spanto, and I ended up selling it, and I regret it because I'd rather keep that than this one. But so far, this has stayed in the collection. I am a fan of Curtis Knives. I want to say I communicated with him once or twice, and he seemed very cordial. Seemed like the type of knife maker that would take care of you if you had any issues. So, all right. Next, we have the Koenig Arius. So, Bill Koenig, custom knife maker out of Idaho. This is the mini Arius. And it's got this Corda pattern for the milling with bronze accents for the hardware and backspacer. Trying to see if I can get it to drop freely. There you go. This is the regular size Arius. And the mini I got from, I want to say Knife Center. Love the Knife Center DOT. But I paid $805 for this one. Actually, you know what? I don't think, well, there's no tax on this one. So I did not get it from Knife Center or DOT. I got it from another authorized online retailer that doesn't charge tax. This one I picked up from USA Made Blades. A little pricier. This one's $930. Got this in 2023, and this one's a little bit more recent from 2024. This pleads into the case where I definitely prefer the large. Having already a preference for larger knives, between these two, this while you can get 4 fingers all the way around the handle, it doesn't. It feels like it's about to slip out for some reason. At least that's how I feel about it. But and because it's a mini, the pocket clip retention on this one's more stiff than the large. The thwack, or the iconic acoustics from Koenig Arius, does not disappoint. First time it took me a very long time to finally get my hands on an Arius, but I can now understand why people have so many great things to say about the flipping action and the acoustics. Well, I can do this forever, but I won't. Mini has a really good snap for how small it is, actually. Oops. Yeah, I still really like this, just not as much as the large. Side-by-side comparison. Yeah. It's got great drop shut action on both of these. Just going to pause real quick. If you see any of these knives that you want a more in-depth review about, just let me know. Post it in the comments. I've done I've done reviews on quite a few of these already, either first impressions or a full review where I measure the size, weight, give my opinions, stuff like that. So a few of these should have those already, at least first impressions. All right, let's move on to Oz Machine Company. This is the Rosie, aka Rosie. It's the Roosevelt. I always want, yeah, it's Roosevelt or is it Roosevelt? I want to say it's Roosevelt, but I just refer to it as Rosie, and I've done it so long and so often that I am not even completely sure if it's Roosevelt or Roosevelt. It's Roosevelt, right? Okay. All right. So I picked up the. So this is a standard size Rosie. I picked this up. This is the very first Rosie I ever got, and I got it because they had a pre-order, which they, from my recollection, has only happened once. This is the radio frag milling pattern. This one has, let's see the steel. It's Magna Cut, and I got this for $750 plus shipping. So it was like $768, and I got this one back in May of 2023. This is the large, the XL actually. So it's Rosie XL. This one I got in more recently, October of 2024. And how did I get this? I got this on a first come first serve, which was very surprising when I was able to pick this up. This is using that zigzag pattern milling, and this is also the Magna Cut. This comes in at a whopping $1,000, and then add another $25 for shipping. So these are one of the instances where actually the way the Rosie is made, the standard version, it's the way the choil kind of contours around your hand, it makes it, in my opinion, one of the most comfortable and efficient smaller blades folding knives I have ever handled. And I completely understand the craze around the Rosies. I mean, they've done a really good job with marketing and also limiting how many it's being produced so that you're creating that demand for this product. Um, excellent, excellent business model. But uh, yeah, I really like the standard Rosie. It just, as soon as you pop it open, get your hand in place, it's ready to go to work. The larger one, while I love large knives, is well, the dimensions of the ratio of the dimensions feels a bit, I don't want to say out of place, but um, you have a lot left over. Like that's a chunk of space after a four-finger grip. I guess especially if you're using this portion of the handle, which, as much as I want to call it choil, I'm not sure if it really is because it's not really embedded into the blade so much so as it is the handle. It's a combination of both, right? But I mean, if you get, and you are able to not use this portion and kind of grip down, and you'll still get a four-finger grip. So that is good. And I think that's something that's overlooked at times when you have a choil area. However, I feel like sometimes I want to compare this to some of the Spidacles I've handled. Right, Spidacles with finger choils. As soon as you get out of the finger choil area, some of them feels a little awkward. Like for me, the Shaman without the finger choil, it's not as comfortable. It feels off. I wouldn't say it's the same for this, right? But when you're cutting, you're for me, if you're cutting something, I want the edge to be as close as possible so I know that I can control what I'm cutting. But as soon as you lose that portion, you lose the feel of when you're using it. I don't know if that's making a lot of sense, but let me know what your opinion is about that. I have a lot of Spidacles. I have a lot of Spidacles with choils on it, but and it hasn't ever presented itself as an issue in any way. But it just feels more comfortable if I can, as I'm using the tool, that I know where the blade is, and not that I don't if it's down here, but it has a different sense of control, so to speak. So And I really do like the XL Rosie. But I think if I was to pick between these two, I would actually still stick with the standard size. Yeah. Excellent action on these. They're not, this isn't drop shut, but it's a light shake shut for these. Look at me trying to arrange these nicely on my screen. Okay, next and lastly, I have Strider knives. Nick Strider's a custom knife maker, and from my, it took me a while to really get into them because I know there's a lot of politics behind um, the history of Nick Strider. I am not going to get into that. For myself, yes, part of that dissuaded me from getting into it and testing out his knives and trying them out and buying one. But I think what really compelled me to finally do it was starting my channel. I felt that I owed it to myself to experience these knives, to gain an understanding of, because they are very popular. Their knives sell out all the time. I don't ever see any of Strider's knives in stock unless it's like a custom one where it's unique nightmare grind or something, super fancy materials, whatever it may be. But their Friday drops, and I think they do Friday and Saturday drops direct from their website, sells out instantly. I've rarely seen their knives stay in stock on retailer sites. So let's jump into it. This is the SNG. I got this from Knife Joy, and this one I paid $595. It's got that flag engraved on the show side. This is aluminum. I don't know if that really makes too much of a sound difference, but this is titanium back lock side. It's got the tiger stripe finish on the blade. This one's 20 CV. Other one I have is the SMF. This has a gunner grip aluminum handle on the front, and then titanium on the back for the lock side. This one's a Magna Cut. This one I picked up directly from the Strider website for $884. They charge tax because they're in California. I think if you buy outside of California, they wouldn't charge you tax. At least that's how I'm understanding the way that works, with online businesses. But otherwise, it would have been $800. But it's a hefty fee to pay for tax as well as shipping. Not so much the shipping, more so the tax. All right, well, let's take a look at comparisons. These don't have the same name, right? All these have the same name, pretty much. Small, large, Inkosi, medium, large, F3, mini, and non-mini, Arius. We got the Rosie, XL Rosie. These have very distinct names, though. SNG, SMF. For me, they are very similar. I don't quite. I mean, the grinds on both of these are different, but you can get that in the same model as well. I actually kind of prefer the SNG more too, um, just because the SMF feels awkwardly oversized. Again, back to like using the choil. As you get up here, you have a boatload of real estate in the back. Kind of like the Rosie, but not as pronounced. Um, they do a decent job with the jimping. It gets definitely a lot more aggressive towards the handles than it does on the blade. And one thing I really struggle with is the lock stick on these. These have gone a lot better, but I've also added some graphite. So a lot less lock stick. I had one, actually, it was this one. Lock stick was so bad that if I flicked it open, I would need two hands to disengage the lock. So this has gone a lot better with the graphite, also just by wearing it in. And they've always appealed to, I like the looks of Striders. But my honest opinion is that for the materials and like it also has a custom pivot tool you need for at least this series. I believe the performance series gets rid of that, and you can use a more standardized pivot tool that you can, as a normal tool in most people's toolboxes. However, yeah, with these two, you need a customized pivot tool, and I'm just not a fan of that. I don't want to spend $500 to $600 to $900 on your knife and then have to go buy a pivot tool too. But that's just me. All right, that's me on my soapbox. The Striders hold a decent value too, a resale value. So part of that of me finally pulling the trigger and getting one because I knew that if I truly did not like it, I should have it. I wouldn't have to take so much of a loss on reselling it. Yeah. Another gripe I have is the pocket clip. So while it's a very simplistic titanium pocket clip, I just happen to have thick liners on my pockets, on my jeans pockets, which I wear most of the times my jeans, and I can get the knife put into the pocket, but as I'm extracting it, this portion of the lock bar cutout just gets stuck, and it's a pain in the what trying to get these out. But so yeah, it's just kind of a close-up size comparison, tip to tip. And interesting enough, they're not. I actually don't think the SMF is that much larger than an SNG. I mean, from what I'm looking at, it's about an inch. And that's clearly enough for it to be a difference. But I feel like if you were to look at the Rosies, that's like half a knife difference, right? No, a quarter of a knife difference. So yeah. And that will conclude my overview of what I want to call the big bro, little bro knife collection. Again, I do have Spydercos that you can fit in this type of category, but I've done separate videos on that as part of my collection overview already. These are recurring features on a collection because I've done a CRK collection video as well. But yeah, I really appreciate you tuning in. Let me know again if there's anything you see that you want me to do an in-depth video about, or you have questions about. If I made any false statements here, feel free to correct me. I don't do a whole lot of research prior to these videos just because I kind of like to just put them out there. And for me, I'm still learning in this hobby, in this industry. So I'm happy to hear your thoughts, your comments. And yeah, I like to engage with everyone. So that's part of the journey and part of what I enjoy about having a channel and being able to produce videos. So, and now I know I'm starting to ramble, so I'm just going to end it. But really appreciate you tuning in. Again, let me know if comments, if you enjoyed it, if you want to see more of these collection videos. I feel I've been getting good feedback about them. Otherwise, yeah, hopefully you'll tune in for the next one. Stay frosty.